Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Screen Queensland Short Film Fund webinar session, where we will be running through our short film fund, which we've just recently launched, and answering some of your queries about it. I'd like to start by doing an acknowledgement of country. We at Screen Queensland would like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional custodians of Australia, recognizing their cultural and historical connection to land, sea, cosmos, and community. Screen Queensland is committed to elevating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander practitioners to continue sharing their rich cultures and perspectives with the Queensland and global community through screen storytelling. Always was, always will be. Welcome, everybody. This is our new short film fund. It's been a while since we've run a program of this nature, and we're looking forward to bringing it back to support our early and mid-career creatives in the screen sector.
Just to let you know, if you don't already, who we are. I'm Phil Enkelmeyer. I'm a content director here at Screen Queensland.
And I'm Jesse McCart. I'm the program manager of online at Screen Queensland. I work with Phil in the content team.
So we're really excited about this fund, and I suspect you are too. As Jesse said, it's been a while since we've had a short film fund. I'm sure you've got lots of questions. We'll get into questions really quickly. Hopefully you can see the Q&A section in this webinar in the Zoom. Please do put your questions in now. We'll get into that as soon as we can. There's always, of course, the guidelines on the website. And if there's any questions that aren't answered, if we don't get time to answer all your questions today, of course, you can always follow up with us. Just send an email to content@screenqld.com.au and we'll respond to your questions as soon as we can. So I guess let's start off talking about a little bit about the purpose of this program, what it is that we're hoping to see, what we're hoping to achieve with this program.
Yeah, so I run the online program here at Screen Queensland, and something that we've noticed through this program, which is fantastic, it's supporting early and mid-career practitioners in our state, is that. One second, got some questions. So, one thing that we've noticed is that it primarily focuses on creatives working in comedy and factual, whereas drama is underserved. So that's something that we're looking at supporting through this program. We're also looking at supporting directors who have a theatrical lens on the storytelling, looking to really focus in this program. Really looking to see applicants look at a festival strategy for the short films that they're creating, looking internationally at premieres of significance and outside of just Queensland and Australia. So that's something that we're really looking to see practitioners make an effort at focusing on.
Yeah, so really director focused, and we're after your most creative, fresh ideas for this. It's got a very cinematic focus, I would say. So what we're really wanting is theatrical led. We're wanting these to be films that could premiere at a festival, ideally. And of course, then they can have a run online, on a streamer, on a broadcaster, but they should be made for cinema screens. So we'll run through just some of the T's and C's that give you an overview of what it is that you can apply for, eligibility questions, and things like that.
Yeah.
So firstly, just in terms of who can apply and who we're hoping will apply, obviously this is for Queenslanders. So you must be a Queensland resident producer or director. You can be both of those things at the same time, and current Queensland residents. As we said, it's a director-focused fund. So we're looking for directors who have either directed a minimum of one short film that's screened at an industry-recognized film or screen festival, and we can get into what that means shortly.
Domestically and or internationally.
Yeah. Or if you as a director do not have that credit, if this is your debut short film, that's fine as long as you can find a producer who does have at least a couple of credits in maybe a similar space. They can be online credits, short film, TV feature, but we just want to make sure that you have the right scaffolding around you as a director. If you're coming into this program, that the funding is something that you're going to have support in utilizing, somebody who can help you put together a budget and a schedule and do the casting and crewing and all of those things. So we're encouraging you too, if you're at that stage where you don't yet have a credit. Apparently I can't be seen. That's because of the, yeah, let's just do this. There we go. And I'm going to turn my video off. I was right here the whole time. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so if you are, if you're just at the very start of your career, you don't have any credits yet, we encourage you to go out and find that producer. Find somebody who you can partner with, who you can get excited about your vision and bring them on board.
Yeah. Something to note is that only one director can be on, like, the director is going to be on one application at a time in this program. And you need to demonstrate that you've got clear chain of title documentation if on the underlying creative materials that you're producing. So if you're working from a short story, or if it's factual project based on a news item, that ensure that you've got those access agreements and that chain of title all organized ahead of application.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about budget and what we're wanting to see there. So in the guidelines, we ask that you present a budget that is a reasonable and realistic reflection of the project's scope and demonstrates efficient use of the funding. And then a key subpoint there, which you can see, is that any additional funding from other sources must be secured at the point of application. And what we're trying to get at with this part of the guidelines is, you might feel that you've got some potential to raise extra money. You might think, well, I could get some more money from crowdfunding. Maybe some family and friends want to chip in some money as private investment. And that's okay, but we do ask that if you do go down that route, firstly, that you keep that limited and reasonable. So, for example, don't say, oh, I'll get the 50K from Screen Queensland and I'll raise 150K from other people. If you came in with a budget like that, we would be questioning whether the film you're making really fits in with the scope of the kinds of films we want to see made here.
And without that funding secured, it adds risk to supporting the proposal when that money might not be substantiated in the end.
Yeah. We've got a lot of questions coming through. What else should we touch on? Maybe
just on some more core eligibility points. You cannot be a full-time undergraduate, honors, or master's student. That also extends to high school students, if there's any joining us. As we mentioned earlier, we're looking for short films that are planning on theatrical release in film festivals, with a secondary life online afterwards. If you're interested in creating web series and other things in those lines, the online production grants program is still running. That runs in 2 rounds a year. And this is a fund supporting projects up to $50,000.
Just on the runtime as well. So we're looking for films between 5 and 15 minutes in length. Now, obviously, a question we've already had is that 15 minutes a hard cap? Now, obviously, if you come in with a really, really brilliant film, but it looks like it's going to run 16, 17 minutes, we're not going to dismiss it out of hand just because of that. We would encourage you to try to keep within that time frame, 5 to 15 minutes, and particularly be aware of different festivals that you might be wanting to submit this to and what their requirements might be. On that note, one of the key documents in your application is around your strategy for release. So you get the money, you make the film, now what? We want to know that you've got a really clear idea of the pathway forward for this film. We want to see in the application form itself, what are your top 3 festivals that you're going to submit this to? What's the plan? What are the dates for those? Give us an idea of the timing of your own schedule for this. And just that there's that you've thought through really clearly how this short film that you're proposing to make strategically where it's going to live in the market, and why you're the best placed person to take it on that journey.
Yes, I also want to reiterate we're open to projects of any genre, and we're also open to documentary projects. So this is not a short film fund specifically limited to any particular type of film. And we also are open for proof of concept films, that being films that are, approved for a future feature film. However, these projects need to form in and of itself a complete and coherent narrative, and not be just an excerpt or a scene or a sequence of scenes. They must stand on their own as a film in and of themselves.
Yeah, that's right. And just to touch on as well, other creative materials. So we are asking that you provide a sample of your work, or the director provide a sample of their work of minimum 5 minutes duration. And that sample ideally being that film that has screened at a recognized film screen festival. We're wanting, of course, a polished screenplay of the film. So we won't be accepting treatments for films that you have not yet written. And we encourage you to submit that screenplay at as highly developed a level as you can make it. And then, as mentioned, we want to see that strategy document around your pathway to market. Of course, again, as we said earlier, you will need to provide any evidence of chain of title or copyright ownership. So if you're a producer applying and you optioned a particular writer's screenplay, then you need to show us that you've got the agreement, the option on that work. I think we could probably dive into some questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's see. Okay, so here's a question. I'll speak to this one while you look through the other questions, Jesse. So this first question, timelines. What's the completion timeline? Now, naturally, we're quite flexible with this, but ideally, we're hoping to be able to announce sometime mid to late October, and then have you contracted before the end of the year, and even potentially, depending on how long that contracting process takes, shooting by the end of the year or early next year for delivery around May in 2026.
Yeah, we have someone asking if they're able to submit as co-directors. Yes, absolutely. Co-directors are perfectly acceptable.
If you're a first-time director, but also a producer or writer with a track record of screening work at festivals, does that count, or do you need to be paired with another producer? We look at this in quite a holistic way. So if you, as a producer, have a strong track record, but it's your first time directing, then yes, we would look at that.
We've got one asking about, is there a list of these film festivals that we're qualifying as industry recognized? No, we're taking this on a sort of, per festival basis. I think if you're thinking in Australia of festivals that we might be considering of this caliber, think about MIF, Sydney, Adelaide, Flickerfest, St Kilda. Although there may be others, and these will take on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Just so there's a couple of questions around the genre, or what type of, for example, what type of documentary projects we might be looking for. So just to reiterate, we aren't looking for any specific genre, any specific type of content. At Screen Queensland, we're quite genre agnostic. What we want is for you to demonstrate to us that there's strong market appeal for the type of film you want to make. And so that can be of any, and just to clarify, we're not talking necessarily commercial appeal in the sense of something that, is going to be wildly popular. And we're talking about you can make something that's really bespoke, really beautiful. You could make a really small, intimate art house piece that's not genre at all. And as long as you can demonstrate that there's an audience for that, then great. That's what we want to see. Just show us the pathway to your audience.
We've got a question asking for what's the preferred budget to use. We recommend that you use the Screen Australia A to Z budget template. There's a slightly reduced version of that with the A to Z budget template for digital media that is just a slightly reduced version of the feature film budget template. We recommend that you use that. It makes it easy to cross-compare applications on our end. And it's also good practice for any early career producers who haven't used that template previously.
A few questions that I'll just try and work through quite quickly. Firstly, how many do we expect to fund? We're going to fund up to 5 in this particular round. We hope to be able to do this again in future years. We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah.
But it is ideally this will be a fund that comes back. Do TV credits count? Potentially, yes. We're wanting to see, do you have screen producing experience or directing experience? Completion funding, if you've already begun a film but need to complete it. Unfortunately, no, this is not a completion. It cannot function as a completion fund.
On a similar but slightly different note, if a short film has received development funding from Screen Australia but not production funding, would it be eligible? Yes, absolutely. As you'd have a developed script for a short film project. So yes, that would be eligible.
Yeah. The question here, when it comes to selection, how much weight is given to the story itself versus the potential of the director and their future career? That's a fantastic question. We are looking at both, to be honest. So we really want to see, first and foremost, that you have a great story. And we want to see that you as a creative have clearly outlined in this application a path for that film, and also that that's going to be of benefit to you in your career. So yeah, we are about nurturing talent. It's not just about the story, though, of course, we do want the stories to be as great, as fresh, as vibrant as they can possibly be. Multiple applications. There's a few questions asking, can you submit multiple applications?
So a director can only be the director on one submitted project. It is recommended to producers as well to be on one project would be the recommendation. That there's room to be on more than one, but being on multiple would be you'd be stretched thin. So I recommend, yeah, focusing in on one project that you truly believe in.
Yeah. A question to do with budget, that because it's a short film, it's assumed that most crew would be working on a volunteer or honorarium basis. We are expecting you to pay award rates. that is what you should expect a fair chunk of your budget to go towards, is paying your crew. That's something that as a screen agency we have an obligation to with our funding, that we're funding projects that are paying people those minimum rates or board rates.
Got a question asking if we need if the applicant needs to be an Australian citizen, and yes, yes, you do.
Yep. Do both director and producer need to live in Queensland? Again, the answer is yes. It's a as a Screen Queensland initiative, we're wanting to focus the funding that we offer to Queensland creatives. So yeah, we do want Queenslanders to be the applicants.
We've got a question on the documentary front. So with scripted projects, we are chasing a fully developed script. For factual, yes, we are chasing a very well developed treatment of the project.
Yep. For directors who are wanting to debut with this short film, what would we like to see? So this is presuming that you do have accredited producer attached, but you're a first-time director. Then yes, the question asks, is a writing sample okay? Yeah, we would then be looking at your writing. Look, maybe you would like to upload a couple of samples in that case. But the main thing that we're going to be looking at creatively in that case is, of course, the script for this film.
It's a question about whether if someone on the team is a PhD student, either full-time, part-time, or on a long leave of absence, whether they would still be eligible. It depends in what role. If it's the PhD students, the IP owner. See, the big thing with the university tertiary study question is whether the funding is going towards the completion of a tertiary film. So if they're a PhD in, like, biology, and that would be a different story versus someone in film.
Where this particular short film would then potentially count toward their study or their whatever their thesis or something like that. The question, just to go over again what we're talking about with in terms of the eligibility, and saying that you have to either have that one credit as a director or have a producer attached who's got two fully budgeted, professionally produced and exhibited screen projects. So yes, we are setting rather a high bar with this. This is for us about us having a degree of just, I guess, confidence in being able to give what's quite a substantial sum of money and in what's going to be a very competitive program. And in terms of what we're talking about with professionally produced, we're talking, I suppose, about things that have been made that have had a budget. We want to know that you can handle a budget, that you know how to look after paying people and insurances and things like that. So that is important for us for this particular round of this short film funding. Interesting question here. To demonstrate strong pathway to audience, besides our own subjective take and besides the horror genre, which is having a moment, how would other genres present a compelling case for this? Yeah, really great question. One thing to just encourage you with is, if you're not doing horror, that's absolutely fine. And we would love to see some non-horror shorts. Horror is fine too, but certainly the intel that we're currently getting from the market is that even though horror is having a moment, you also have to be a little mindful of oversaturation in that degree, and that in fact dramas are starting to pick up and the feature film front around the world. So how you make the case for it in terms of its pathway to market is really about talking about the festivals that you're going to apply for, uh, and how you're going to present to them, how you're going to, your strategy for why those festivals, like why are you choosing this festival over that other festival, for example. And in the case of genre, of course, there are, say for horror, there are specific film festivals that have a focus on horror, and it's probably a good idea if you're applying with a horror to target those festivals. Um, Whereas if it's a drama, you wouldn't be focusing on those horror festivals. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about there.
This question here about signing talent or co-writers that are based interstate. That is fine. The big interstate question is always about IP ownership, ensuring that the IP is majority held in Queensland is very important to us.
Yeah.
And the majority of the team and the key creative team is as well.
A good question about so a project that might be being filmed, being produced in a remote part of Queensland where you're going to have to take into account travel and accommodation costs, and can you present a larger budget? Yes, you can. 50,000 is absolutely the cap from Screen Queensland. As we said earlier, you can submit a budget which proposes additional funding. However, the main thing is that that funding be secured at the point of application. So, I mean, in terms of what do we mean by it has to be secured at the point of application, obviously we're going to be, quite pragmatic and reasonable about what that looks like. But we don't want you to be going into production hoping to get $50,000 of private funding or crowdfunding to make your short film, and that 50,000, that half of the budget not being secure yet. We wouldn't be able to contract with you until we know that that funding is secure.
Would an interstate co-producer be eligible if the IP is held by a Queensland producer? Yes. Yep, they would be.
Yep.
The funding is inclusive of production and marketing and festival fees.
And insurance fees
and
as well.
insurance fees, yeah.
So do budget for contingency and insurance. Anything that you would have to budget for in a larger project, you should be budgeting for here, obviously on a smaller scale.
There's a lot of questions around citizenship. So the key creative team and the IP owners need to be Australian citizens and Queensland residents. That's just because this is Queensland taxpayer money being spent on this program, so that's important to us. If there are international or interstate practitioners involved in the project, they can be involved, but they cannot have a majority IP stake in the project, and the key creative team needs to be 50% Queensland resident.
So there's
and the higher that is, the more competitive it views to us.
On to that point, another question just been asked: if the producer and director and all crew will be Queensland, can the writer be based in LA? Yes, because as we've said, this is primarily focused on supporting Queensland resident directors and producers. So yes, it's okay if the writer's in LA as long as you've got that clear chain of title. Another question I want to speak to here: what kind of support will Screen Queensland provide to selected filmmakers beyond the grant itself? Such as mentorship, industry connections, guidance, all of the above. Yes, we are what you get when you receive Screen Queensland funding through an initiative like this, as opposed to our regular production funding. You do get a lot of that. It may not necessarily be formal. A fair bit of it will be informal, but we are certainly here as an agency to provide whatever support we can to these filmmakers.
There's a question considering the budget and whether it can rely wholly on that Screen Queensland support, and yes,
Yeah.
that is absolutely fine.
In fact, I would say we would encourage that. Where you can, stick to the $50,000. Okay, let's just have a quick look through any questions we might not have answered yet. Are the director and producer meant to get paid as well? Look, that's something for you to figure out in terms of your own budget constraints and whether you choose to reinvest that. Obviously, we want to be able to pay people for their time, and you need to, I guess, assess how much you are willing to reinvest as the director and producer, how much you're willing to reinvest of your own fees. I would be encouraging people to definitely put line items in their budgets for producers and directors, so that at the very least you're getting some kind of living wage, even if you then do choose in the finance plan to reinvest that. If we have well-known Australian talent attached, does that hold weight with the application? It really depends on the strength of the story. Like, that is the main thing we're looking for. Look, of course, having strong talent can be a really good thing in terms of the doors it can open to markets, and just giving you that slight competitive edge in terms of getting into the different festivals you want to apply for. But that won't be a primary factor in our assessment. Also, if you are making that a key pillar of your strategy to say, we've got this cast member attached who's high profile, and that's what's going to help open doors to all these festivals, we'd want to see evidence of their attachment.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other questions that we haven't got to yet? How many shoot days have you calculated achievable for that budget? Again, that's going to be up to you. Every film is going to be different. We'd obviously, we don't want you to try and shoot a feature on that money. We do need this to just be in that range of 5 to 15 minutes. So don't go budgeting for a 25-day shoot. But if it's one day, if it's 5 days, like, that's really up to you and what the film needs. And how involved are we in the creative process? We don't take an EP credit on this. We will naturally consult through the process. We will be, with you all the way through contracting, various milestones through to delivery.
And we'll, toward the release of the project, provide support to try and ensure the success of these projects, as we're quite involved in their production. We
won't own any IP. It's grant funding, so wherever it's grant, we don't take a copyright position in it. So we require you to have all necessary copyright.
It's a question whether whether a festival credit for a documentary work, but you're applying to create a fiction work, whether that criteria would still count. Yeah, absolutely. It's just a short film. It doesn't have to be, like for like. That's fine. You'd be eligible with that.
Does the 5 to 15 minute runtime for project apply to the pages of the script? No. Again, if you were to submit a 50-page script, we'd be asking how are you going to get that into 15 minutes as an extreme example. The page a minute rule in screenwriting is kind of loose, so use it as a guide, but don't feel too restricted by that. Like, focus on making it the best script it can be first, and then look at the runtime.
It's a question around key creative roles and whether one person can be across multiple key creative roles. Yes, that's fine if you've got a writer director or a producer writer. director, producer, whatever combination, that's fine.
Okay. I think if we haven't answered your question, who will be choosing the final 5 projects? We will be. Confirming is just one applicant okay? Yes, so you could apply as a director and producer, filling both of those roles, as long as you've got the necessary credits for eligibility.
It's a question around whether a short film, which is a standalone fiction work, but will be included in a larger documentary project, as a reenactment, would be eligible. Technically, yes, although that's slightly more complicated question. And you can reach out to us directly for maybe a bit further consultation on that. But it would, as I mentioned earlier, would have to stand alone as a narrative piece, in and of itself, as well as being a part of a bigger project.
In terms of when will you know the outcome? So like I said, that'll be late October. So we're going to be making our decisions internally in the middle of October. That usually takes a week or two to be signed off, and then we'll let you know.
Is SQ open to topics, taboo subjects, adult themes, and sensitive topics? Yes. Yeah, we absolutely are. As long as it's serving the narrative and is an interesting piece of filmmaking, the quality of the storytelling and the work is what's most important to us in this program to ensure the success of these films, domestically and internationally.
Okay, great. Well, I think we will bring it to a close there. Thank you so much for all of your questions. Thanks you for your time. As I said at the beginning, if we haven't been able to answer any of your questions, or if you have more questions after this, please do get in touch. And please just send those through to content@screenqld.com.au, and we'll get back to you with some answers.
Absolutely. There's just two more questions that rolled in while you were saying that, Phil, and I'll quickly get to them. Does applying for the Short Film Fund impact your application for feature film development? No, it does not. This is a separate program. And question about having a very seasoned producer attached who's released 2 features, but you are an early career director, maybe without those credits. That is fine as well. But I think it would be great to try and negotiate a good share of IP ownership for yourself in that. I think that'd be a good thing to try to do.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Looking forward to seeing your applications.
Which close on Friday, September 19th. Don't forget.